There was Eru, the One, who in Arda is called Iluvatar, and he first made the Ainur, the holy ones that were offspring of his thought, and they were with him before aught else was made. And he spoke to them, propounding to them themes of music, and they sang before him, and he was glad. But for a long while they sang only each alone, or but a few together, while the rest hearkened. For each comprehended only that part of mind of Iluvatar from which he came, and in the understanding of their brethren they grew but slowly. Yet ever as they listened, they came to a deeper understanding, and increased in unison and harmony. It came to pass that Iluvatar called together all the Ainur, and declared to them a mighty theme, unfolding to them things greater and more wonderful than he had yet revealed, and the glory of its beginning and the splendor of its end amazed the Ainur. So they bowed before Iluvatar and were silent. And he said to them, "Of the theme that I've declared to you, I want you to make in harmony together a great music. And since I've kindled you with the flame imperishable, you will show your powers in adorning this theme, each with his own thoughts and devices, if you will. But I will sit and listen and be glad that through you great beauty has been awakened into song." So their voices sing, they sound wonderful. Never since have the Ainur made music like this, although it has been said that a greater still shall be made before Iluvatar by the choirs of the Ainur and the children of Iluvatar after the end of days. Then the themes of Iluvatar shall be played aright, and take being in the moment of their utterance, for all shall then understand fully his intent in their part, and each shall know the comprehension of each, and Iluvatar shall give to their thoughts the secret fire, being well pleased. But now Iluvatar sat and hearkened, and for a great while all seemed good to him, for in the music there were no flaws. But as the theme progressed, it came into the heart of Melkor to interweave matters of his own imagining that were not in accord with the theme of Iluvatar. For he sought to increase his power and glory of the part assigned to himself. And to Melkor, among the Ainur, had been given the greatest gifts of power and knowledge, and he had a share in all of the gifts of his brethren. He had gone often alone into the void places, seeking the imperishable flame, for desire grew hot within him to bring into being things of his own. And it seemed to him that Iluvatar took no thought for the void, and he was impatient for its emptiness. Yet he found not the fire, for it is with Iluvatar. And being alone, he had begun to conceive thoughts of his own, unlike those of his brethren. Some of those thoughts he now wove into the music, and straightway discord rose about him, and many that sang near to him grew despondent, and their thoughts were disturbed, and their music faltered. But some began to attune their music to his, rather than to the thought to which they had at first. Then the discord of Melkor spread ever wider, and the melodies which had been heard before floundered in a sea of turbulent sound. But Iluvatar sat and hearkened until it seemed that about his throne there was a raging storm, as of dark waters that made war upon one another in endless wrath that would not be assuaged. Then Iluvatar arose, and the Ainur perceived that he smiled, and he lifted up his left hand, and a new theme began amid the storm, like and yet unlike to the former theme, and it gathered power and had new beauty. But the discord of Melkor rose in uproar and contended with it, and again there was a war of sound more violent than before, until many of the Ainur were dismayed and sang no longer, and Melkor had the mastery. Then again Iluvatar rose, and the Ainur perceived that his countenance was stern, and he lifted up his right hand, and behold, a third theme grew amidst the confusion, and it was unlike the others. For it seemed at first soft and sweet, a mere rippling of gentle sounds and delicate melodies, but it could not be quenched, and it took to itself power and profundity. And it seemed at last that there were two musics progressing at one time before the seat of Iluvatar, and they were utterly at variance. The one was deep and wide and beautiful, but slow and blended with an immeasurable sorrow from which its beauty chiefly came. The other had now achieved a unity of its own, but it was loud and vain and endlessly repeated like a techno beat. And it had little harmony, but rather a clamorous unison, as if many trumpets braying upon a few notes. And it essayed to drown the other music by the violence of its voice, and it seemed that its most triumphant notes were taken by the other and woven into its own solemn pattern. In the midst of this strife, whereat the halls of Iluvatar shook and a tremor ran out into the silences yet unmoved, Iluvatar arose a third time, and his face was terrible to behold. Then he raised up both of his hands, and in one chord, deeper than the abyss, higher than the firmament, piercing as the light of the eye of Iluvatar, the music ceased. Then Iluvatar spoke and said, "Mighty are the Nuer, and mightiest among them is Melkor, but that he may know, and all the Ainur, that I am Iluvatar, those things that ye have sung, I'll make 'em happen, and you'll see what you have done. And you, Melkor, shall see that no theme may be played that doesn't have its uttermost source in me, nor can any alter the music against my wishes. For he that tries these things shall prove but my instrument in devising of things more wonderful, which he himself hasn't imagined." Then the Ainur were afraid, and they did not yet comprehend the words that were said to them. But Melkor was filled with shame, of which came secret anger. But Iluvatar rose in splendor, and he went forth from the fair regions that he had made for the Ainur, and the Ainur followed him. And when they were come into the void, Iluvatar said to them, "Behold your music." And he showed to them a vision, giving to them sight, where before there was only hearing. And they saw a new world made visible before them, and it was globed amid the void, and it was sustained therein, but it wasn't of it. And as they looked and wondered, this world began to unfold its history, and it seemed to them that it lived and grew. And when the Ainur had gazed for a while and were silent, Iluvatar said again, "Behold your music. This is your minstrelsy, and each of you shall find contained herein, amid the design that I set before you, all things which it may seem that he himself has devised or added, and you, Melkor, will discover all the secret thoughts of your mind, and will perceive that they are but part of the whole and tributary to its glory." And the world was created.